Good afternoon or evening or night, depending on where you are. I know we have some people tuning in from as far away as Australia, so thank you to everybody for joining and sharing a bit of your day with us. We're very happy to jump in and talk a bit about contract revisions and Slack integrations, a couple really cool new features our product team has been hard at work on. My name is Derek Durden. I've been with DealHub coming up on 2 years now on the CS side. So very happy to chat about a couple features and some really cool ways I think we can use these in y'all's environments. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So for today's call webinar, we're going to cover a few things, of course, contract revisions in Slack, but more in depth than that, some key use cases where contract revision will be vital, as well as how it differs from our current online redline capabilities. We'll dig into a demo of it, so where it lives in the configuration from the admin side, as well as how it looks and where it appears in the deal room from the sales side. And then we'll kind of take a same look at Slack, where it integrates from the configuration standpoint from the admin side, and then also a demo of how it's installed and some of the really cool notifications and where the notification settings live as well for Slack. So starting off with the contract revision, I know, again, we've had a lot of people who have been waiting on this feature, so very excited for us to be able to roll this out and present it to you guys. What's really cool about this feature, unlike the red line, which we will take a look at in a second, where that lives, but this is handled locally. So from within the deal room, you're actually able to download the Word document, so a docx file, and then from there, redline and manipulate it, send it to your procurement team, your legal team, as you see fit. And again, we love this feature because for a lot of teams, especially for our enterprise clients or people who handle enterprise sales processes, your legal team or your procurement team, whoever is reviewing and editing contracts, probably has a way that they love to do it. It's their own process. Maybe it starts off with a Salesforce case or something else. But a lot of times it ends up coming into Word to be redlined and manipulated there by everybody they feel needs eyes on it, and they like to manage it that way. So this actually allows us to completely incorporate and integrate that process with all of the functionality and tracking you get in the deal room as well. Again, we'll take a closer look at what that looks like. But key thing here is that it's handled offline, so locally once downloaded. It does still fully allow you to upload and restore different versions or revisions of your contracts. We do have the ability to determine, whether it's just your legal team or the buyer's legal team as well. So some gating on who can access and make some of these changes, and fully trackable within the deal room with, notification support as well. So it allows us to minimize errors by, again, keeping you in line with your current process. Also allows the legal teams, as I said, to use Word locally on their computer. And it also confirms that everybody is working on the most up-to-date document because of how the deal room itself is able to track which revision we're on and which version is being published for signature and execution, and also allows you to easily see the differences between versions within the deal room, which, again, we'll take a look at here momentarily. So the key difference between the contract revision versus what we have now in the redline feature is one is offline, one is within the deal room. As I mentioned, the revisions is completely done via that docx, that Word file, whereas the redline lives, as you know, in a widget in a deal room, right? So from there, it is only accessed when somebody who's part of that deal room community goes to that online link. All the changes happen within the deal room itself, all the tracking happens, the notifications, and that's all public, right, between the buyer and the seller within the redline widget. Whereas the contract revision, since it's handled offline via Word, you can keep that siloed to just your seller organization or the specific buyers you want to share it with when you feel that time has arisen. So these are some of the key features we're going to take a look at, how to download and make changes to a revision, how we're able to lock certain aspects of the document in that process, restoring older revisions, seeing some of the activities and, again, notifications that happen within the revisions, as well as looking at how we can track some of the changes and compare some of the things between document A and document, F, for example, depending on how many revisions we have. Awesome. So I'm going to jump over into my environment, our sandbox. Please excuse the sand. And we will take a look first at where this lives in the version and how to enable it. So hopefully you're all familiar with the control panel and how to get into a version. If not, please contact your CS person immediately. But once in, let's go into version settings. And we'll go into a draft version so we can manipulate some things. And the contract revisions lives within the advanced settings and then in our deal room settings tab. And this tab is getting more and more stuff in it, which is great. We've got a lot of new deal room features that have come out and more on the roadmap as well. But for this, we're going to go to the revision settings, which is this bottom, and we're going to expand it. And you're going to see a couple key things here. So first and foremost, we have the ability to determine when this is active. And our two options are simply always or never. One thing I do want to call out about the contract revisions is this is either always on for your deal rooms, every single deal room configuration, or it is not. Unlike the online redline widget where we have presentation rules we can put around the widget or even around the entire deal room that widget may live in, contract revisions is similar to the appendices in that it lives in the signature widget. And again, the contract revisions is either always there or never there. So we'll leave this as always now for the demo. The other thing that you have the ability to access is the buyer settings. So of course your legal team is able to download and not only download, but add or restore revisions, but you have the ability again at a system level. So for all deal rooms within this version to determine if we want the buyers to have those capabilities as well. So can the buyer download the docx? And then from there, do they also have the ability to add or restore, AKA make latest revisions that we have uploaded into said deal room? So you can mark these no or yes. I currently have these both as yes, and I'm going to leave them that way. And once we have our contract revisions on, jump over to our user management and then our permissions. And we'll take a look at legal, for example. This is the out of the box, so default legal permission set now has two new permission fields that are by default marked as yes. One, the ability to download the revision. So similar to how we can set that up for the buyer, we can determine which permission sets have the ability to download, and then also which permission sets have the ability to add and or restore revisions as well. So the ability to really make one primary, which would then be available for signature and execution. So by default, legal has both of these as yes, and by default, your sales permission set, they will be able to download, but they cannot add or restore. So if you want to change this, either for sales or legal or your other permission sets, again, this lives in the user management and then in the permissions tab. One more key configuration aspect of the contract revision I want to showcase is how we are able to control what sections of our document are actually able to be revised by both sides, by both parties, right? Your legal team and also the buyer, if we allow them ability to do so. So first and foremost, by default, and this cannot be changed, all pricing tables are locked. So you'll see once contract revisions is enabled, you now have this checkbox at the bottom of your pricing tables that's grayed out, which says locked for changes in document revision files. Because pricing tables, of course, can carry line items or price-related products, any changes to that need to happen through the typical guided selling, through the product assignment, through the product pricing that you're familiar with. For contract revisions, we're really more so focused on text, for example. But even within my text sections, so for my terms and conditions, for example, I do have the ability to lock a section for changes if I would like. And if I do so, then it's protected. And as we'll take a look at in the demo, I'm unable to edit that specific section of the document when making my revision. So I'm going to leave this section unlocked, but for shipments, for example, we have locked. And we'll take a look at what that does in a second. Another thing I want to call out is in sections that we have available for editing, where we are grabbing a parameter from the playbook. So for example, the geography here, the start date, or even the term length, because these are directly related to playbook questions, when revisions to these are made, the system is actually able to recognize that and surface that a playbook question information that initially was captured has been edited through the revision process. So again, we'll take a look at what that looks like in the demo, but do be aware if you have things that aren't hard-coded in, like for example, our upfront payments is hard-coded. If you have something coming from a playbook question, the system will let you know through the revisioning that, hey, this specific playbook question's data has been manipulated. Awesome. And with that being said, let's jump over to sales mode and actually see what we're talking about here. All right, so I have an opportunity. This is, say it's a new customer. I'm gonna leave everything as is, have a couple products, and let's get some names here. Should be good. One second. Yeah. Awesome. So now I have a published deal room, and we can take a look at where the contract revisions lives, as well as a few cool things that it does. So you'll see I now have this new button in my signature widget for contract revisions. Again, lives similarly to the appendices in this widget. And as we said, is gated by that setting in the deal room settings of the advanced settings. So let's jump in, and there's a couple type of different revision notes and activities you'll see. First and foremost, the first version of the document is always 0 because it's the system generated default version that came just based on how your quote is built. Further revisions from there will be numerically increased by 1 as we add or make different ones primary. So let's take a look at how we can first off download a revision. So you'll see it gives you a notice that, again, this is a docx file, but certain sections will be editable, certain sections will be locked. And then also for the document integrity, this exact same version has to be saved and uploaded when you're editing the versions. So make sure you do not change the type when saving as, or try to manipulate it other than just revising the document itself. Awesome. So this is our document here. And a couple things we mentioned, so we can close this. And now if I wanted to add a new revision, and even if it was the one I just downloaded, for example, it's going to say this file is from an older proposal revision. Please upload files from revision 6 or higher. And that's happening because, as stated, you always want to download the latest revision, then make edits, and then upload it, or the system is going to recognize that it's an older version, in which case you could just restore. So we'll see here, if I were to go into this revision, for example, and look at a few of the activities, I can see when it was added, when it was compared to different versions, or if it was downloaded. And I have the ability to restore a version if I would like to be the now primary version. But let's go ahead and download the most recent one and make some edits and take a look at the compare feature. Okay, so let's change this, for example, to 90. And where we have our term length, let's change this to 24. And then I'm going to save. And now let's upload that back in. File uploaded successfully. I now have a 7. And I can see this version now has my 90 days and my 24-month start period. But let's take a closer look at this version versus another version, for example, version 6. So I have the ability to, again, when I select 2, I can now come compare revisions. And this is going to show me between the 2 documents everything that was changed. So I can see my initial document on the left had 30 days. My new one on the right now has 90. I can see, again, it had 18 months. This one has 24 months. In situations where you have a lot of changes, you are able to filter between just content changes, which is going to be the actual values change, versus style changes. So if something was put in bold, for example, which I didn't do, or maybe a strike through, for example, you'll be able to see that. But again, looking at all of them, you can see a list that will actually quick jump to where it's located in a document and showcase the differences between the 2. The other thing we can do, as discussed, is the proposal changes. And as mentioned, because that term length question is actually based on a question group, as you can see here from the general info, it's a term length months question. And my initial answer from what was in the playbook was 18. But now through the revisions, the system is reminding me, hey, this question was changed to 24. So in addition to being able to just see a list of all the changes between the 2 documents, you can also drill down and see which specific aspects of playbook questions were edited as well. And the last thing I want to show, if I go back into my contract revisions, is if I were to try and upload a document unrelated to this opportunity or this quote, file is not identified for this revisioning process. Essentially, what the system is saying is that that Word doc, that docx that we're trying to upload, was not generated from this quote or this specific deal room, and therefore cannot be brought into this contract revisioning process. So again, the system itself is always making sure not only are you using the latest revision and uploading new versions of that, but that the revisions you're uploading are specifically related to this quote in this deal room as well, all through the metadata tagging happening in that docx. So a lot of very cool things we can do with the contract revisions. Again, it allows your team to make all those edits offline, which is probably very comfortable for them as it relates well to their current process. But then when uploading it back into the deal room, we still get a lot of the cool online features of, one, the tracking that is involved with the notifications you get when revisions are added or made to a deal room, the ability to compare and contrast between your 2 versions, and even the ability to drill down and see where specific playbook questions themselves were edited in the revisions made to your document. The other thing I want to show real quick, let me go back to, we'll grab this one, for example. So as you saw, I was able to change the number here, to different days, or even here to different months. But down here, the section that we had locked, even if I'm typing, I'm unable to make any changes. Same thing in the pricing tables as well. Because those sections are locked and this docx is being managed by that deal room, the only places they can actually make changes are those sections where we've allowed changes to be made. So again, on top of everything, it also allows you to ensure only the aspects of your T's and C's, your MSA, your quote, your sales order, purchase order, whatever is going out to your customer, only the specific aspects you want them to have the ability to manipulate, they can. And that's if we even allow the buyer to download and then add or make revisions through the contract revision process. Perfect. So from here, we will take questions at the end on that, but we are going to jump over into the Slack integration and take a quick look at how that is set up and manipulated. So what's cool about the Slack is, one, if you use Slack, you probably live in it like we all do. It's more than a workspace, it's a life space these days. But it allows you to get all of your notifications that you're used to via email or even via deal stream notifications directly into your Slack workspace and even interact with them directly through your Slack workspace. So proposal updates, the ability to request proposal details when you have a specific quote ID, even responding directly via Deal Talk or via approval comments, approve and reject, all happening directly within the Slack workspace. And then, of course, the ability to manage those notifications. So if there's only certain things you want to get in Slack or email, you have the ability to control exactly what you do and don't see and where you are seeing it. So Slack integration, like all our integrations, lives in the system settings. So we're going to jump into the system settings here. And a couple call outs, you need to be an admin in DealHub, but you also need to be an admin in your Slack workspace as well to install and set up the integration. You may want to confirm your security settings because we do see in some cases certain Slack workspace settings are not able for certain people to install applications. So that's definitely something to be aware of. And if you're having any issues, of course, feel free to set some time with your customer success manager. We will be happy to work with support and your security team to make sure we can get it integrated correctly. Other thing I'll call out is just installing it as an admin in both places does not install it for your reps or for your team members. They still need to go into their Slack workspace and install the DealHub app themselves. So it's not automatically integrated for everybody. And removing the app is not the same as installing it. So if you do want to install it, you need to go through the configuration page of the DealHub app and remove it there. So let's go ahead and get logged in, get this integrated. So you'll get here the request. We'll go ahead and allow it. And then once done, I'll get an integration for Slack saying the integration for Slack finished successfully. And then in my Slack environment, I will now be able to add the DealHub app. And you will start off by getting a welcome to DealHub message. Again, this is our sandbox, as mentioned. So I've done this a few times, so I'm not going to get the welcome message. But for your very first integration, once you have the DealHub app installed in your workspace, you will get a welcome message. So if you're not seeing one, there may have been some sort of issue with the integration or the sync between the two. Again, not a big deal. Reach out to your CSM or support or both. We'll definitely, figure out how to make sure it's connected properly. But you should get this welcome to DealHub message, kind of giving you a quick high-level overview of some of what the connection in the app can do. So my colleague Gal in the background is going to get us some notifications by submitting an opportunity that needs my approval. Let's hope the discount isn't too high, and we will take a look at how that appears. And while she gets that together, I also want to show you here in the user settings. So now in my notification preference, for each umbrella workflow, deal room, deal talk proposal, I have the ability to determine whether I'm getting an email, Slack, or both, right? So I can say for the deal room, for example, maybe I don't want deal box or redline updates on Slack. I just want those via email, or vice versa. So now that I have Slack installed, each user in their own settings has the ability to customize exactly what they receive notifications for. Perfect. So looks like I was just mentioned in a comment. So I'm going to actually click from my Slack workspace to view in DealHub. And this is going to pop up a window from Slack, taking me directly into that specific quote where 12% off was requested. And I'm going to go back to Slack, though, and I'm actually going to reply directly from Slack. And you'll see here instantly, I now have a notification of exactly what I said in Slack coming directly into the deal talk in real time. So even though, I have the proposal open and could respond from here, if I wanted to directly from Slack, I can reply as well. I also have the ability to approve, reject, see exactly what workflows are triggered for my approval, view the PDF, all again directly from the Slack as well. I'm going to go ahead and click approve. And you'll see it now immediately updates this to approved. And still allows me to view the proposal and any other information I would need, open it up if I would like to. Again, all directly from within the Slack. Other types of notifications you can get as well. You can request deal information by searching using the quote ID. You can see if somebody else has approved on your behalf, and it'll say no need to take further action because mentioning that person, someone else has reviewed and accepted the proposal. You can also see when a proposal is shared with you as well. So if I share with the colleague, that will come directly into their Slack workspace as well. And in our knowledge base, there's quite a bit of information on, exactly what you can do with both the contract revisions and the Slack integration. So please take a look. Again, as mentioned, please reach out to your CSM as well, or myself directly if you would like for any questions or feedback, thoughts on it. This is our initial version, and we're very happy with what we've rolled out and how we think it'll be able to integrate into your current processes. But of course, we'd love feedback for an inevitable version 2 and ways we can improve and expand upon what's already been built. Awesome. So I will take a moment for some Q&A. Let me see. I think we have a chat I can pull up. Okay, so one question from Chris. How is the original contract getting into the deal room? So the original contract, the 01 that system generated, is from what automatically comes from the PDF when you submit your proposal and generate your first version of the deal room. So it is whatever your configured PDF is set as. So everything will be stocked to your PDF template that you have living, and your deal room template that you have living in that version. From there, they can download that and again, make revisions and upload as necessary. Yep, great question, Janine. So yes, in the Word, the offline redline, we do have the ability to lock certain sections so they cannot be edited or leave them available to be edited at our discretion. Pricing tables by default will always be locked, and that can't be changed. So that is one section we cannot actually open up for editing, but others we can choose if they are open or closed. Salespeople do not necessarily have the ability to make edits. So their default setting out of the box is they can only download. But in the user permission sets, you could create one that allows your sales reps or certain personalities, roles, groups, to be able to make those edits and add revisions. Awesome. I guess it was just that in-depth of a webinar. So that's great to hear. Thank you. No, but seriously, please, if any other questions come up, feel free to explore these both in your systems and your configurations, in your sandbox, in your production environment, what have you. Please reach out. Again, all feedback is welcome. We love to hear from you guys in general, but especially as it relates to features. And that also gets us time with product to let them know exactly what you guys are looking for, how you're using the tool, and how the tool can better help you. So we look forward to hearing from you. And if there's any other questions, feel free to submit them now, or we can follow up via email. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. And hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And thank you for your time.